I have a lot of thoughts on this book. Now, I bought the book red, white, and royal blue on my Kindle because I knew that I didn't want to spend a lot of money on a book that, despite reading good reviews, I sort of knew off of the bat that I probably wasn't going to enjoy enough to reread it or want it on my bookshelf. And I was right. It was, without being too mean, it was a hot steaming pile of trash. And this might be controversial, but I have some important points to make here that I will go over as soon as I've gone over the summary that I'm going to quickly give of what this book is about. So, without giving too many spoilers, this book is about a boy called Alex who is half Mexican. He's American, from Texas, and he is the first son of the presidential family. I'm not American, so I don't really know what you call it. But he's the son of the first female president of the United States. Ellen Claremont, I believe, is her name in the book. Although she's more often referred to mum as mum or President Claremont. And he has a sister called June, which I love that name. I thought that was very, very cute. And he basically falls in love with his initial rival, who's called Prince Henry. He is sort of a fictional prince of England in this sort of reimagining of the royal family of the United Kingdom. And it is a queer romance, and I do have a very soft spot for queer romances. As somebody who is queer, I really do enjoy those kinds of books. I like seeing myself in these kinds of books, and I sort of like, I don't know, there is something about a romance that isn't completely straight in one way or another, which is endearing to me, because, you know, we've all been there, like, or when I say we've all, I mean most queer people have been there, where you haven't read a book when you're young that represents the kind of romance that you want, or the romance that you envision yourself having in the future. Okay, point one, the dialogue. I found the dialogue honestly terrible. The writing I found terrible. I wanted to rip my eyes out and put them in a blender and never read again. Towards the end of this book, I genuinely started wanting to not read it anymore because I found it that bad. I was lying in bed, it was like 11 o'clock. My boyfriend wanted to go to sleep and I was like, no, I have to finish this. I have to finish it, even though it's shit. It wasn't actually that shit, but to be honest, I just thought that the dialogue was trying to be funny and it fell completely flat. It was a terrible blend of Wattpad fanfiction and 2014 Tumblr. And I have been there both places, and to be honest, that is not what I'm looking for in a novel, in a critically acclaimed book. It didn't do it for me, to be honest. It might do it for you guys, but it didn't do it for me. I found the dialogue and the characters to be caricatures, honestly, of millennials and Gen Z. I think some elements of nostalgia were put into the book really well, which I will be talking about, but the dialogue was really not that good, and I'll probably put some examples up later, like after this little talking thing. I've never done a video before, but I didn't like it. I just thought it was a timid attempt to appeal to the younger generations with jargon and slang and all these things that I just think fell very flat and did not appeal to me in the slightest. So yeah, dialogue didn't do it for me. Okay, the next point, representation. Now this one I felt was a lot more nuanced than my last point. Dialogue, just hated. This one, I think there are definitely different facets to it. Overall, the representation in this book was obviously very good. I think one of the selling points is that it has such fantastic representation in that you have a female president, you have a gay Prince of England, you have a half Mexican first son and first daughter, you have this gay Latino congressman. It's full of all of these colourful, diverse characters, which I definitely appreciated. It didn't go unnoticed to me, I think. The first thing I want to mention is the queer characters and the themes of discovering yourself, discovering your sexuality. As somebody who is bisexual, I don't really want to label myself as that, but for all intents and purposes, I'm just going to say, for this video, I'm bisexual, like both genders. All genders, really, but whatever. I think that the whole plot point of Alex being bisexual really resonated with me. I think that that was some wonderful self-discovery stuff. I thought that the whole thing was very realistic, to me at least. The whole thing with, spoilers ahead, the whole thing with Alex sort of discovering his bisexuality and thinking about all the things he used to do as a kid, all the times that he thought about men and just brushed it off as like, oh, but I'm straight. I think, as much as that isn't exactly the same as what I had, I think that it definitely can resonate with a lot of people who are bisexual, feeling like perhaps when you're young you have to stick to one, or that it's out of the norm, or that you just have to be straight because everybody else is, and sort of ignoring your same-sex attraction. I thought that the author did that really well. However, there were some other bits that I found less interesting. I thought that, or at least after a little bit of reading from some other readers who were South American, who were Latino, I think that perhaps Alex's Mexican ancestry and his culture could have been incorporated into the story a little more. I read criticisms from people who were South American and Central American saying that, for example, his grandparents are not really brought up in the book other than a passing comment right in the beginning. His culture isn't completely, is sort of, I feel, a prop for the story. I don't think it was delved into very much, and I think that perhaps it was just sort of put in there superficially to just add in more diversity. And comparing it to, for example, to his bisexual identity, I think that it was not delved into and fleshed out particularly well. And obviously sexuality and ethnicity are completely different things. Culture and sexuality, though connected, are different things. But I think at the same time, the author really could have done a lot more to flesh out the sort of cultural and, I don't know, those parts of Alex and June and Oscar. I think it could have been done a lot better, to be honest. Okay, point 3 I have put as the actual romance. Now, I thought that this depiction of a long-distance relationship in the modern world, of course it's sort of different because they are like super high-profile people, but it, I think, is very nostalgic to a lot of people my age. a lot of Gen Z and millennials can sort of look at that and relate. And I think that that's something that really missed the mark with the dialogue, but was really done well with the romance initially between Alex and Henry. And of course it's a enemies to lovers trope, and I'm not a particularly huge fan of the enemies to lovers trope. I mean, I'll read it, I don't particularly care for it that much. I'm just sort of neutral, but it could be cute, and it was definitely cute this time. I loved like the late night talks and the messages, and it just completely reminded me of my first love and that kind of digital element to it. I feel like it's quite nostalgic to a lot of people my age, and it was just done really well, like the sort of slow ease into things. One thing that was done a lot better in terms of dialogue was the messages. I thought that the messages were realistic to the kinds of messages that I would be sending somebody I had a crush on when I was like 15. Although obviously they're like 22. But like, it's cute. It's cute. I did like that. I thought it was done well, and I will probably put some examples up because I don't have the book with me right now. Obviously I have it on my Kindle, but I will go through. I like highlighted a bunch of stuff on there. So yeah, it was pretty good. I really enjoyed that element of the story. Another point. Zara was an asshole. She was mean, unnecessarily, completely ignored all of the trauma that any of the main characters went through. She sucked. She was a terrible, terrible, terrible cliche and just caricature of like a millennial. It was so bad. I don't know what Sean saw in her. She was just really, really a nasty character. And every time I read her, I wanted to throw the book into the Indian Ocean and let a whale eat it, because she's just mean. Really mean. That's all I have to say. I'm going to put some quotes up here because she's just a nasty woman. Nasty, nasty woman. This is my final and potentially most controversial take. This again is really nuanced, and I don't want to come off too biased. Now, in this story, there is some really valid and I think well-placed criticism on the culture of the United Kingdom, the terrible, awful tabloids, and their just constant like predation on the royal family and on high-profile figures. I thought that was well done. There were definitely some odd comments about how depressing England is. And listen, I've been to London like twice, but where I'm from it's pretty nice. I mean, I could be wrong, I haven't been there in years, but I grew up like in the country. It's not that depressing. I mean, other than when it rains for like 2 months straight, but whatever. I think that the royal family is undeniably a part of British culture and has been for a very long time, and I feel like there could have been a more nuanced take on this. I'm not going to say what my opinions are on the royal family. I honestly don't care that much. I live in Australia anyway, so it's not really a big deal to me. In terms of Australia, I don't know why she's still our queen, I'm not going to lie, but in an English context, I don't have much of an opinion, to be honest. But I definitely think that there could have been more nuance to that conversation and to that element of the story. And I think there could have also been more mention and nuance to the... Okay, look at it this way. You have a lot of sort of well-placed criticism and sort of discussion of the colonization and the empire that created the wealth that England has, and sort of the things that they have in the museum and all the things that are stolen from colonized lands. But at the same time, I feel like there wasn't a simultaneous conversation going on about what America was built on. Now, of course, there were still conversations about that kind of thing, but I feel like they were nowhere near as critical or in-depth as the ones that we had in the sort of on the other side of the Atlantic, you know? And listen, I know that this book is just a comedy, not meant to be taken that seriously. It's a rom-com, like, but I feel like if you're going to bring up issues on one side of the romance and the country and the culture of one man in the romance, why not do it for the other one, you know? I think that it was a highly Americocentric view of things, which I don't particularly mind. I found it interesting learning these new things about America, things that I didn't know before, but as somebody who's sort of, like, I'm from the UK, but I live here in Australia. It's completely removed from either one of these, like, main countries in the story. I thought that it was definitely a little bit too focused on the American side of things. Hey, listen, I could be wrong. Americans, please don't kill me in the comments. But if you have any criticisms, please tell me, and I would love to learn. Yeah, so yeah. Overall, I give this book a 3 out of 5. I thought it was okay. At the points where it was good, it was really good. It was beautiful, it was nostalgic, and it had a lovely romance that I think flowed really beautifully. However, when it was bad, it was really bad, and I think that that's reflected in the style and the dialogue, in the actual writing of the book, and also of the lack, I think, of nuance in the representation and in the cultural discussions that you find in this book. So I do recommend this if someone's sort of looking for something fun and silly and a romance, but I think there are much better queer romance books, such as Song of Achilles, and They Both Die at the End, which I just read and made me bawl my eyes out. I think you might enjoy those more. But then again, who knows? Everybody has different taste in books. I didn't like this one, you might love it. That's okay. Everybody likes different things. I hope you enjoyed the video.